Hello, is Mahad there, please?
Yeah, this is he.
Hi, this is Andrew W.K calling. How are you?
Holy crap! Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing excellent.
Oh, that's excellent news.
It's let's just open up by just saying, wow, thank you for your time. I absolutely appreciate it. Thanks,
Oh,
and
my pleasure.
I understand
Absolutely.
I understand it's precious, and I absolutely cannot wait to see you in Atlanta. I've been a huge fan of yours for a minute now.
Thank you very much. I also am looking forward to the Atlanta show a great deal, and I appreciate you helping spread the word.
Oh, dude, of course. It's what I do. I want to say they pay me handsomely, but not quite there yet.
Well,
Anyway,
hey, either way, the fact that you care about this at all means a lot to me, and certainly means a lot to partying itself.
oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I'm actually a party 101, my friend. I just okay. Before I get, I'm gonna fanboy out. Professional journalism. Professional journalism. I'm glad I have you. I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask, and answer any of them you feel wherever you feel comfortable with. Okay.
Okay.
All right, excellent. To kick things off, uh, not so much of a stretch to say you're famously known as quite the party enthusiast. The question I have for you now is it is it mostly a stage persona, or is it say a reflection of your a bit of a reflection of your private life?
I mean, I respect and understand many approaches to, I guess, this dichotomy that performers engage in.
Hmm.
And I've personally been maybe as an audience member disappointed, but understanding when performers have explained that what they do in their work or with music or on stage is disconnected from their other parts of their life. Um, I don't personally relate to that, and I wouldn't want to live that way. I'm only able to muster up the physical and emotional and mental energy to do this because it's a holistic approach to living for me. And separating it or compartmentalizing it I would make it impossible for me to do. So it's all one effort to live the best way that I possibly can, to be the partiest person that I can, and to fulfill this quest somehow every day, uh, to make the most out of this opportunity I've gotten to be alive. It's all one great work.
No kidding. It's all the party persona. It's all authentically you.
It's just all me trying to imagine what would be the best way that I could be, what's the best thing I could do, and to try to, again, to, I guess, show respect to the chances that have come my way. And of course, there's different behavior that is most effective in different modes.
Hmm.
If I'm, well, actually, if I'm talking to you right now, it wouldn't necessarily make for the best interview in terms of trying to express myself and articulate these concepts we're discussing. If I was running in a circle and playing keyboard, I wouldn't be able to hold the phone, for example, and you might not
Right.
be able to hear me. So there's different modes of activity that apply to different areas of this effort, but it all falls under one umbrella, which is being alive and trying to party as hard as possible.
I actually love that. And I honestly believe that's why a lot of fans are drawn to it. It the phrase "maximum effort" comes to mind when seeing you on stage. Your persona, your no, I'm gonna remove that. Your sound, like let's say for your early releases, frankly I'm drawing back to the "I Get Wet" record from 2001 on Island.
Sure.
That sound of yours, like how did you develop that?
Well, it was a lot of these outcomes, I guess, were the result of an inner sensibility, or an
Hmm.
inner desire, an inner vision, really. But
Yeah.
because it's a vision, it's often thought that visions are something that you imagine, you come up with, you daydream, you ponder, you pine away at trying to think about what you want to do, and you piece it together. But oftentimes visions, or I would maybe even say more accurately, visions present themselves to the person who's envisioning it. It comes as a complete phenomenon. And
Hmm.
the effort then becomes, how do I bring this into being from out of this vision and make it into a tangible experience, or in the the outside world. So it first exists in you, pretty complete, I mean, and that's why it's almost even a little intimidating, and it can be
Hmm.
quite confusing. It can be even a bit humiliating because you didn't invent it to yourself. You didn't come up with it. You didn't dream it up. It just was dreamt up. It's like it dreamt up you. Sometimes your vision dreams you and asks you to do the physical labor of building it in 3 dimensions. So then that includes sound. So that sound was just what I guess I was meant to do. I've tried to describe it since as a maximalist approach to music, to use every single thing that you possibly can that will add that full-blown, triumphant, bombastic intensity. That is the style I'm working in. I mean, I love all kinds of intense music, and music can be very intense, intensely
Vatican.
quiet. It can be intensely serene. It can be intensely sparse. This music is intensely full, and so I used everything I could. If I was going to use a guitar, I would use the biggest, loudest guitar I could come up with, and then layer it on 50 times, and have every keyboard and every keyboard sound and the biggest drums and many layers of drums and many layers of vocals. And why have one person, if you can have a group vocal and a chanted vocal and a crowd vocal and a choir vocal and so on and so forth. So it's use everything that you
Hmm.
possibly have access to create it. And I'm not saying that's the best way or the only way, or that anyone else of music that isn't like that is in any way lesser. It's just the way that this particular flavor is. This is like the everything bagel of music, I guess.
I take you. You are. I absolutely love your answers. It's like you absolutely definitely think about what you say, and I love that about you, man.
Oh, you're asking great questions. I'm trying to do my best with it.
Well, I appreciate that very much. If I can sort of take things, still kind of dwelling into your earlier days, a little bit of rudimentary research, reveals that, your father, James E. Kirk, is renowned as a professor of law. It strikes me as, not a stretch to say you came from sort of an academia sort of background. I'm curious to know, was your family supportive of you of pursuing a career in music?
Yes, and I don't know if you accidentally misspoke or if you had the name wrong. His last name is Creer,
Oh, I apologize.
Karier.
That's how I had it written. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. That's on me. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure he would be very upset if it was spelled wrong. So yeah, Karier. And while my dad
Adjust.
is a teacher, and while he's a professor, while he's a writer, he's actually, in my opinion, and I mean this as a compliment, a frustrated artist. He's
Hmm.
really a creative person who has found himself working in academics. Now, not to say that all academics don't involve creativity,
Hmm.
but what someone might imagine is a very rigorous, scholastic kind of upbringing. It was much more freewheeling and uh, loose in the best ways. So my dad likes painting, he likes drawing, and he was the first person I ever saw play piano when I was real young, like 3 or 4. He was taking piano lessons. We had a piano in the house, and he's a creative thinker, and that actually applies very well, of course, to well, the world of academia, but also to law. Even though it's a nice contrast because we think of laws in the legal world as these hard-edged, uh, inflexible frameworks that are holding up society, and in a real way they are, but they had to be built at some point, and sometimes they're remodeled, and sometimes they're looked at from a different angle and reinterpreted. And he has that kind of mind that's really built for that, and always encouraged that that approach to life in whatever you do. So it was actually a very encouraging world. And of course, he had his doubts about all kinds of things, and his concerns, as any parent would, about the unlikely direction that I was going in. But as he saw that I was very passionate about it and very committed, he realized it was either he could choose to support it or I was going to do it one way, either way. And my mom tempered all of that in a beautiful sense with her sort of unflinching support, where she believed in me even more than I believed in myself, which is sometimes exactly what a parent needs to do for their child. And I would sometimes figure, wow, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this, but my mom thinks I'm going to be able to do it, and she would know better than I would, so I'm just going to use her mindset. So I was very, very lucky, very fortunate to have just the right amount of strict discipline and parental influence, while also a hands-off approach that allowed me to, become my own person.
It certainly sounds like you did, and that sounds like it's great that you had that sort of environment to really kind of explore and to sort of develop your musical direction. If I can ask a follow-up question to that, I'm curious to know, what were your influences, I suppose, or anybody you listened to or inspired by in terms of developing your music sound?
Well, from what I've learned talking to other people and friends over the years, I think I was a bit stunted with my exposure to music, or my experience with lots of recorded music,
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons. A lot of my friends that, I started piano at a very young age, so that was my first encounter with music, and that's where everything begins and ends with me,
Wow.
to this day. So it's just really the piano lessons. But as far as music beyond piano and my piano teachers and these piano classes and the pieces that we worked on in the capacity of these lessons, yeah, I didn't have older siblings living with me. I didn't have, even in the neighborhood we lived in, it was kind of spread out. There was mostly older couples and not a lot of kids. There wasn't a lot. We didn't have cable TV. It didn't really occur to me until I was older to listen to the radio. And of course, the more that life went on, the more I was presented with what music was out there. But there was a considerable vacuum, which I don't know if it's good or bad. It's how it's just what it was. And, I made up my own songs because that just seemed like what you would do if you have this instrument in front of you. You just play and have fun. And I don't know. I think in terms of, I mean this in a very respectful way to everybody. And I don't think it's the best approach. It's just the approach that I took, where I don't try to involve the things that I like as an individual into this quest, because the vision didn't ask for that. And I actually think that too much of my tastes, as they come and go and they change and they, evolve or don't evolve, too much of myself, especially the worst sides of myself, infiltrating this vision, it would be a disrespect to it. So, the party gods asked me to do this work,
Right.
and I have to do this work and not let it be compromised by anything, including myself, including even what I like or don't like. Sometimes there's things that I really like that I would want to do, but I know that that's not what this is about. It's not about me. It's about this feeling. It's about this quest. It's about this vision, and making it manifest as accurately as I possibly can to what I was shown. So there really wasn't, I mean, of course there was influences. I mean, all keyboard players and piano players that have played high energy music, I've been very bolstered by, very inspired by, and very encouraged by, because I was told a lot as a young person that piano is not a rock instrument, and that, that doesn't count. You have to play guitar or bass and things like that. And,
Yeah.
but seeing Little Richard or Jerry Lee Lewis, or,
Exactly.
even Depeche Mode and Gary Newman, and then so on and so forth, even Nine Inch Nails and other bands that used keyboard in a very prominent way, even as a centerpiece. That was always very encouraging, but I don't know that the music sounds like those things necessarily. So a lot of what I like, you can be. I'm inspired by, athletes. I'm inspired by, writers, just like anybody who applies themselves and follows through and takes those risks and deals with the ups and downs of following their true path in life.
Fascinating. You take all those influences and just sort of throw in your music. And actually, I love how you emphasize your background in piano, because the keyboards, especially even in your earlier songs, the keyboards really come out. It's an interesting phenomenon to listen to.
Oh,
Speaking
well,
of,
thanks.
well, I mean it sincerely. It's watching you do your thing. It's incredible. If I could, moving on further in your music history, there was a period of time, let's say a day or two out. I want to say 2004. Yeah, no, 2006. It was, you had an album. I can't read my own handwriting right now. I apologize. It's my
No,
fault.
no problem.
Took some notes here, and this is where they. There we go. During I'm not going to dig into it. I promise you I'm not. But a situation of some sort of legal disputes that prevented you from having the album Close Calls with Brick Walls from being released into the United States. That was released in Japan, and you had a kind of follow up there with there was an album of J-pop covers, a Gundam tribute, uh, a lot of music released in Japan. And I guess my question that was interesting about that was, at the time, did you always have, say, a love and affinity for Japanese pop culture? I mean, why release music, I suppose, in Japan?
Well, I mean, as you alluded to, there was definitely a legal reason. There were loopholes that allowed us to do that more easily at the time, and also had a really, really excellent relationship with Universal Music Japan, and especially my main A&R gentleman there, Kimi Kato, Kimi, last name Katoh, I think, and he and I had worked together closely since the very first album, I Get Wet, and
Hmm.
he would present me with ideas and opportunities, and I wanted to keep working, and was very thankful to have his enthusiasm and the possibilities that he was bringing forward, and just jumped on all of them. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily something that I would have ever dreamed up. Again, visions can be presented to you by someone else. You know, they don't, sometimes a vision is someone else's vision, then you get brought onto their vision. And I was really overjoyed to participate in that. Some of those cover albums, for example, were some of the most challenging but also rewarding recording experiences that I'd ever had, in terms of figuring out how to do justice to those songs and try to recreate these arrangements as accurately as I could. It was strenuous, but I know it made me better at recording. It made me better at, music in general. Just any time spent in deep focus like that, it'll have lasting results. Beyond that, though, it is true, because in my earlier childhood, I got to visit Japan with my dad when he went to teach at the
Sweet.
University of Kyoto. That was I think that was my first time ever going abroad, leaving the country and going over the oceans like that.
No way.
And that was really, really amazing. And I was really transfixed by everything about it, really. I don't think there was anything I didn't enjoy about that trip. I didn't have the kind of guidance to show me all the facets of the culture, and certainly not the popular culture, but it doesn't matter. You can just walk down the street and have an incredible, mind-blowing experience in anywhere in Japan from my time there. And I almost feel like the excitement I had during that trip, and then that I continue to have for Japan over the years following that trip, wasn't just a way to get me interested. I think it was a preview. The party gods saying, "Hey, you should get into Japan, because you're going to end up doing a lot of stuff there, and get ready." Sometimes, your life gives you previews of things you're going to do, so you have a way to prepare for what's to come.
That is great. Moving on. Speaking of party gods, a party god that I got in mind right now.
I'm sorry. I have to. I don't know if Olivia explained. I do have 20 minutes. So I have about 5 minutes left for this call, and I do apologize.
I'll make the most of the five. You said 5 minutes?
Yes.
I'll make the most of them then.
Thank you.
I do believe you recently announced a new album material scheduled for March of 2018. I wonder, what can you tell us about the new album? What can you tell us about it?
Well, it was never intended to be this long of a break, but sometimes when you're partying, time goes into the abyss, never to be seen again. And that's certainly what happened. That was not an intentional break, but once I snapped out of it, actually, I've been trying to record an album all during those years. Ever since 2006, when we put out Close Calls with Brick Walls, I began working right away on another album. And there's some of the songs on this new album go all the way back to that time.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I tried to schedule recording and really hunker down and clear the schedule in order to record this new album, some unbelievable opportunity would come up that I just felt I couldn't say no to. I felt I wasn't meant to say no to, whether it was doing the kids game show on Cartoon Network, Destroy Will Destroy, or whether it was touring with Black Sabbath. That was the last time that I tried to record. We had cleared out 2 months in the summer of 2013, and I remember very clearly I was in a parking lot on tour, another tour, driving, I think in San Antonio, Texas. I got a call from my manager saying Sharon Osbourne just called and wants to see if you'll be the heavy metal DJ opening up for Black Sabbath on their North American tour.
Nice.
And so then that was very easy to say yes to. I never would have dreamed up that possibility in a million years. So then I said, okay, I guess we have to postpone the album recording again for those months. So you can't complain, when these kinds of opportunities come. You just sort of turn yourself over to the will of your own destiny and say, when this is meant to happen, it will. And I'm very thankful that it's happening now. And these are, I don't even remember how many songs are on the album, 16 or 15 tracks or something like that. And each one is my best attempt to reach that place of sonic party euphoria, really. I mean, I'm just trying to use everything I've learned to hit that same bullseye that I set out trying to hit back in 2001.
I would call that too. Mind if we close out with a fun question?
Sure.
All right. I love this one. I've used every time I get an answer, it's always different. But recently, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees have been announced. So my question is a twofold one. Who would you love to induct into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and who would you love to induct you?
No, I don't know that I'll ever be there, so I'm not going to answer that second part.
Humility is a good thing, I guess.
On behalf of many people, I'm not an expert on this musician, but I'm aware of the legacy and the importance and how much it would mean to so many, including me, to have Link Wray inducted, who in many ways is one of the architects of rock and roll and rock guitar specifically. So.
And you would like to introduce him, like do the whole.
Well, of course. I mean, I would turn it over to someone else who would probably be more steeped in his lore, but he deserves to be in as much as anybody. And I have to use my vote. If I have a vote with you right now, that's who I'll vote for, because there's a lot of people that I've heard from that have been, lobbying for him for years.
He's absolutely just a legend. And speaking of which, I'm talking to, frankly, I think you are a legend. That wraps this up. Do you mind if I call you Mr. W.K. or Andrew? What do you prefer?
Either one, really.
Andrew W.K., I thank you so much for your time. You've put a smile on my face. I cannot wait to see you rock Atlanta. You're going to be amazing, man.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Atlanta, I don't know if you're aware, but Atlanta was originally the first date on the tour. And then when the hurricane came in, we preemptively moved everything to start up north, because the band and really all my equipment, everything lives in Orlando. So we got everything out of there literally the day before the hurricane. Thank God that it was not as bad as it could have been for at least that part of the country. And so then we moved the Atlanta show. So now it's the last show of the tour, from the first to the last. But I must say, it's going to be the best show of the tour in terms of we'll have the most touring under our belts to then get on that stage and use everything we've learned over these weeks.
Oh, you've made me so happy hearing that. That is, I was aware of that show being postponed. I did not know it was the last show, and now I am just jazzed.
Yeah, it's the last show of this stretch.
That is awesome. Excellent. Mr. W.K., thank you for your time and for everything, and absolutely party hard and everything else on tour. Okay, man?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
No problem. Bullet music. You take care, okay, friend?
Okay, bye. You too.
Later.